Well, welcome to everyone who is here. This is our monthly Brunch and Learn with Community Action. We're very happy to have you here. I'm Liz Jennings, Director of Community Engagement, and today's topic is public policy advocacy. But first, what is Brunch and Learn with Community Action? These monthly 1-hour workshops are a time for us to look at a big picture community issue, a community need or a community issue. We talk about the partnerships and collaborations, coalition work, shared plans, and accountability across the community. And then we really focus in on what is community action's role. And every time we end with what you can do to help out. So the purpose of these Brunch and Learns is really for all of us at Community Action, our own staff and volunteers, board members and donors, to get to know these issues and the solutions we're working on, as well as to share that information with our community partners so you can make good referral. It's information and referral to our resource centers, which are in Concrete, Mount Vernon, and Anacortes, as well as all of our services available countywide. So getting to know our programs, making good referrals, and then also this is intended for anyone in the community who wants to learn a little bit more about community action. So today's topic is public policy advocacy. And we're going to talk about what is public policy advocacy? Why does an organization like Community Action that is well known for our information and referral, our resource centers, our direct services, why would we be doing public policy advocacy? We're going to look at what issues are we focusing on this year, especially in the state legislative session that starts this month. And then what you can do to get involved. So I'd like to introduce today's speakers. I'm just going to have you all wave at the camera if you wouldn't mind. We're going to hear today from Bill Hinkle, our Executive Director. Good morning. Madeline McGonigal, our Skagit Food Distribution Center Manager, with the awesome posters of winter squash and other nutritious vegetables hanging behind her. Misty Velasquez, our manager of our energy and utility assistance programs. And I do want to acknowledge we've only got 23 of the 40 folks who RSVP'd here today, so not sure they're in the room, but I want to acknowledge that we did get RSVPs from Clive Shavers, our representative from the 10th Legislative District, and then 2 City Council members, Iris Carillas from Mount Vernon City Council and Stephanie Semro from the Concrete City Council. And we are proud to say that in addition to their service as elected officials, they are also Community Action employees. So thank you to all of those elected officials. And if I missed anyone, please do introduce yourself in the chat if you're an elected official, and we'll be sure to acknowledge you. So first off, I'm going to start, usually we start with the why. Why do we do what we do? What is the community need? But I'm just going to do a very brief overview of what, and then come back to the why. So what is public policy advocacy? And then we'll come back around to why we do it. What I'm going to show you on screen is a workbook. We do a Public Policy 101 training every year that is free and available to anyone who wants to attend. It will be virtual this year. And I'm just going to show you one page, and it's a little teaser. At the end, Isabella Ordonez, our colleague, is going to let you all know how you can get involved. And Isabella Ordonez is our community engagement coordinator. And over the years, I think 8 or 9 times, Isabella, we took a busload of folks to Olympia to tell their stories to their elected officials. And Isabella has been updating these training materials ever since. So I'm going to just show you briefly that what we cover in that training includes a little bit about how a bill becomes a law in Washington State. We'll come back to that during the training later this month. But we cover also the different types of public policy advocacy. And we could make a list as long as, hundreds of items long. But what we like to focus on is showing the differences between some of these different types of public policy advocacy. So as you see here, public policy advocacy can range from community education, what we're doing here today, talking to friends and neighbors. What we do is we do things like presentations with church groups and civic clubs, if any of you would like to engage us in a conversation around any of the issues we work on. We also do candidate education. We invite candidates to elected office to hear from our Latinx Advisory Committee and others with lived experience in housing unaffordability, homelessness, and food and nutrition access and other basic needs. Nonprofits may also, and Community Action has sponsored nonpartisan candidate debates or forums. We can help with getting out the vote, encouraging our clients and other community members to vote. But we cannot, as nonprofit organizations, endorse candidates, make campaign contributions, or communicate in any way that would explicitly or implicitly support a specific candidate. Nonprofits can, or may, I should say, nonprofits may support ballot initiatives, and that is something that may come up later this year. We are focusing our training and this session on legislative education and lobbying. And the only difference there is a specific ask. Legislative education is presenting stories, data, facts to elected officials and asking them to use that information. And we can do all of that as nonprofit organizations, or if we're a volunteer or donor or staff member, when we've got our organizational hat on, our nonprofit status, we can educate until the cows come home, no limits on education. Lobbying is very similar with one difference. Lobbying includes a specific ask. Maybe, please vote on this bill that supports these issues. Here's a story and some data, and using this, we hope that you as a legislator influence other legislators to vote yes on this particular bill or this particular measure. So those are the differences, and there are some small limitations on what nonprofits can do, but basically as long as it's not most of what an organization does, they can still keep their 501c3 nonprofit status. And on this, we won't go into it today, but there's other types of advocacy, such as administrative advocacy, working directly with government departments and bodies like the Department of Commerce in the state or our public health department in Skagit County. And there's also judicial advocacy, which is working through the court system if the legislative and the administrative processes don't work. So if you want to learn more about that, please do keep an eye on your inbox, because Isabella will be sending an invitation for an hour-and-a-half training on public policy advocacy and how to do it. I'm going to end that part of what is public policy advocacy with the heart of the training, which is, it's really as simple as saying, hello, my name is, I care about this issue because of my own experience or what I see happening in my community, or what I see happening in our clients and the families we serve in their lives. So it's hello, my name is, I care about this issue because. That's the heart of public policy advocacy, and anyone can do it. And we at Community Action are dedicated to building the skills of our own staff, volunteers, donors, and especially the people we serve, our clients and program participants, to be able to tell their own stories. So that's a little bit about what public policy advocacy is. Next up, we're going to talk about why do we do it? Why does community action do public policy advocacy? Well, really, we want to focus in on our mission. So as a reminder, I'm going to share screen again. Community Action's mission is at the bottom of our website, down at the bottom, and maybe Isabella, you could put our web link in our homepage in the chat. And down at the bottom, it shows that Community Action's vision is a community in which everyone works together to end poverty in Skagit County. And so that's why we're glad that all of you are here. And it's one of the reasons that Community Action does public policy advocacy, is that by building relationships with elected officials and other decision makers, they're a part of the team. They are helping us and helping the people we serve end poverty in Skagit County. Our mission is to stabilize lives, equip people to meet their goals, and build a stronger, more equitable Skagit County. So these are other reasons that we do public policy advocacy, because if we're going to provide, I should mention that these are the outcomes that we actually measure, what we call our key performance indicators. And those key performance indicators are ensuring to stabilize lives and equip families for success, that we need housing that people who live and work in Skagit County can afford. We need homelessness prevention and interventions to homelessness. We need access to food and nutrition. We need resources and tools for resiliency so that families can get ahead on their goals with their educational, employment, and financial goals. So all of those things that our direct services staff do, most of our 100 employees are providing direct service in programs across Skagit County. The resources and the policies that make that help available comes through public policy advocacy often. It also comes through the generosity of our community. And together, it's a public-private partnership. Government, individuals, families, donors, volunteers working together on these goals. And we know that it's not enough just to treat the symptoms of the problems in our community to meet these needs. We also have to look at root causes. So that's why part of our mission is building stronger communities, not just serving folks who are in trouble now, who come into our resource centers in Concrete, Mount Vernon, and Anacortes, or who pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm facing a challenge and I don't even know what resources are out there. We want to help them, but there's never enough help in our community. There are not enough shelter beds. There's not enough affordable housing. There's not enough nutritious food. And so by working with our elected officials on public policy, we hope to not only provide for those current needs, but to look upstream and work on long-term solutions on root causes. So that's what we're going to focus in on today. And I'm going to stop sharing screen here and introduce Bill Henkel, our executive director. And I want, before we go into some of the impact this has made in people's lives, Bill, is there anything else you'd like to say about what public policy advocacy is and why community action does it?
Thanks, Liz, and Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be here with you. I think you did an outstanding job. I just wanted to thank you, Isabella, some of the other folks like Misty and Madeline who step up and into doing outreach education for our elected officials and sometimes lobbying when we need to have a specific ask. The other piece is I really am proud of all that we've done, not only to, I think you defined it well in terms of building relationships with local elected officials, whether that's in Skagit County. At the state level, by the way, we've got incredible folks in the 10th, 39th, and 40th who represent us at the state level, and then quite a federal delegation too that we work with. I think often it's more at the local Skagit or state level, but an incredible federal delegation as well. I think part of what I'm proud of the work that you all have done and many of us have participated in is just getting people used to what advocacy is and a little more comfortable with it. So when you mentioned the bus tours down to Olympia, and now we often do that virtually, it's just an opportunity for people who care and sometimes have some expertise in terms of their own lived experience to share directly with folks who have been elected to represent us and change the conditions within our community so that more people can thrive. So I'd just add that piece, Liz, but thank you. Great to be here this morning.
Thanks, Bill. And you and I serve, there's a statewide coalition called the Washington State Community Action Partnership. And you and I serve on the legislative committee for that esteemed group. Can you just tell us what WSCAP is, Washington State Community Action Partnership?
Sure, there's 30 community action agencies in the state of Washington that represent or serve every single county and community in the state of Washington. And sometimes, like us, they're called community action. Sometimes they have different names, like up in our friends in Whatcom are the Opportunity Council. But there are 30 of us, and we all were born out of a similar addressing poverty history, and we are all focused locally. We are locally governed to change the conditions of everybody who lives and works in our communities so that they have a better shot at thriving. And so we're working in individually in addressing poverty and trying to support individuals and families, but also, as you pointed out, a lot of our work to meet our mission is at the community level, and so public policy advocacy fits right into that niche.
And you know, we haven't made a big deal out of this yet, but Community Action of Skagit County, this is our 45th anniversary, 2024, 45 years in Skagit County of being the main source for information and referral, and the source of resource centers for individuals and families who need them. And it's also the 60th anniversary of Washington State Community Action Partnership Community Action nationwide. And community action is actually rooted in public policy advocacy. We came out of it. Can you just say a little bit about what happened in 1964 and why that's important?
Sure. President Johnson declared a war on poverty, and out of that, a lot of things sprung. One of the main things that sprung out of that is a community action concept, which is a little bit of federal funding going into local communities to support local action and a collection of resources to support people as holistically as possible, especially because people who are experiencing poverty have really complicated lives. And the reasons for poverty are complex as well. And so the more broadly and holistically we can address them, the more success we'll have. So community action was sort of born out of that concept of we've got to do something collectively about poverty, and here's how we're going to start. You know, we never really garnered our forces for this war on poverty the way we've needed to, and that's why we continually come back at this public policy thing each year. And yet it was a start, and it was a pretty exciting start a long time ago now in the mid-60s.
Thanks, Bill. And I think one important thing for me, at least, as someone who has been working with community action for 11 years, a part of the reason that I do it is that concept that came with the founding of Community Action is maximum feasible participation. And that means maximum feasible participation of people experiencing poverty, people with lived experience in homelessness, in housing insecurity, in food insecurity. And that looks, and we try to do that at all kinds of levels. So many of us who work at Community Action have our own stories of growing up in poverty or experiencing it as adults. Many of our volunteers and board members, and over 1/3 of our board of directors has lived experience in the issues that we work on. And it means maximum feasible participation means that we're always looking for those folks who have come through Community Action's doors, who are willing to share their stories with people who are decision makers at all different levels of government. So thanks, Bill. And then, briefly, maybe hit some of the highlights. We've done the what is public policy advocacy? Why does Community Action do it? And why are we not just and only, and importantly, but not only a direct service organization, but what difference has it made? What are some examples of successes or public policy successes that have created real change in people's lives in Skagit County and maybe elsewhere?
Sure. Sometimes this type of work feels so incremental, but now and then you get an incredible win, and usually those wins come out of a lot of, as you put it, a lot of relationship building over the years and trust, so that folks who are in elected positions know and trust the information and the experience that you're able to share with them. Obviously, there's not enough resources out there to win this war on poverty and address the conditions. But every time that we're able to get a win, housing and essential needs is an example that we were really involved with, really a central key resource for addressing homelessness in our communities. And I think, yes, Liz is showing the famous ruby slipper, the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. It's been a while now, but we're proud to be honored as the Advocacy Organization of the Year from them for helping to work with our state legislature to create housing and essential needs still in our community, still key resources for addressing homelessness. And Jen Milton was working with us at that point and had gone down, I think, on a moment's notice to testify in Olympia. One of those kind of brave things. It feels brave when you first do it, especially. And she was part of what helped turn the tide and get that funding into place. And that was part of the reason we got that award. It's not always money.
Actually,
Once,
Bill, let me just pause there. We're using words that might not mean a whole lot to folks. Housing and essential needs, it's important. What difference does it make in someone's life? What is it, and how does it help people in Skagit County?
it often provides rental assistance for people who have fairly complex lives and issues that they're dealing with, as well as a certain amount of person-to-person support for them to help support them through the crisis of homelessness. So that's what it means.
It's kind of a bridge funding that provides some rental assistance and case management, right?
Yep.
And those two things are necessary. One can't go without the other. We need the housing and we need the support. Okay, go ahead. I think you were going to go into a broader issue, a bigger, or perhaps a national issue that we were involved in.
Sure. Yeah, this was quite something for us. Sometimes you get involved with fairly large things. This had to do with the U.S. Department of Defense. There was a rule that essentially shut out what they termed vendors from military bases, naval air stations like we have um, over in Whidbey Island. By the way, our WIC program serves, our Women, Infant, Children program serves directly on the Naval Air Station. And the rule that was instituted, you know how sometimes the wheels of bureaucracy turn and not everything gets thought out. Actually, meant our WIC program, along with private vendors, but our WIC program had to be removed from the Naval Air Station, which seems silly to us because essentially we have staff who usually are Navy families themselves working directly with Navy families. They understand that population, they're connected, well networked there, they're right on the base, serving people who are serving the country who aren't getting enough money to essentially get enough nutritious food for their children. So it's really a critical support service and a service that really changes lives. And it seemed silly to us that WIC would be kicked off the Naval Air Station. And fortunately, it seemed silly to Senator Patty Murray and Rep. Rick Larson. And you know, we shared what was going on at one visit. Misty's going to talk about visiting DC soon, having to do with energy assistance, but we were visiting DC and went into Rick Larson's office, and you know, they're so busy. I think he said something in jest about, I'm busy, Bill, you better make this the best 5 minutes of your life. So I said, well, here's what's going on with NAS. And he and Senator Murray got together and worked with the U.S. Department of Defense. And sure enough, pretty soon we got this fancy letter from U.S. Department of Defense reinstituting WIC programs across the country, actually, not just ours, which was huge, you know. And again, that's not money per se. That's just that's people serving people who understand the people that they're serving, and serving people who are serving the country. So we were really proud of that.
And Bill, you hit on one of the themes that I'm going to try to pull out with Madeline and Misty as well, that community action of Skagit County does public policy advocacy, and we mobilize others to do public policy advocacy, not for community action of Skagit County, not to benefit an organization, but to benefit our communities. And a lot of times the issues that we work on, some of them don't even turn into like support dollars that come through community action, but they're important programs or funding that support the families we serve through our partner organizations. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that. And that was a great example of, we advocated for WIC nationwide. It had a nationwide impact that WIC programs could stay on those military bases. So let's focus in a little bit more on the upcoming legislative session in Washington State. As we'll talk about more in our advocacy training, Washington State has a biennium, 2 years in a state legislative process. 1 year is longer and there's more policy stuff that's done, and that's the budget year. That was last year, where a bunch of policy bills and the budget gets passed, and the budget's there for 2 years funding state programs. Why is this important to community action and the people we serve? Well, programs like housing and homelessness are often funded from state departments like the Department of Commerce or the State Department of Agriculture that funds food and nutrition programs. And so those budgets get put in place 1 year. And then the second year, which is 2024, it's a shorter session. And there may be updates to the budget changes, a few policy bills, but it's much compressed. And so this is one of those shorter sessions that just goes into, I believe, March. I'm now forgetting exactly what the date is at the end of session, but we'll have it at the top of our mind when we do our training. So this year we've got a shorter amount of time. And as we mentioned, we used to take a busload of folks down to Olympia, about 40 people, half of them staff and volunteers, community partners, and about half people with lived experience, people currently experiencing homelessness or other issues that we work on. And since the pandemic, the legislature has actually become much more accessible. We've been able to get even more people connected and talking to their legislators since 2020 than we were in years previous to that, because we don't have to go all the way to Olympia. People can be in Concrete or Anacortes or Burlington or Mount Vernon and participate in these meetings with our legislators. So at the end, we're going to hear from Isabella that she's got some meetings set up, and we'll be inviting folks who would like to meet with our legislators together. But this year, Bill, because of that short session, we've got a pretty focused agenda. And as a part of that statewide coalition, the WSCAP, Washington State Community Action Partnership, has legislative priorities. And we don't have a lot of time left, Bill, so I'd like you to just focus in on one really high priority issue, which is document recording fees. So can you tell us what is something that has the dumb name of a document recording fee, and why is it going to be really, really hard on programs serving homeless folks?
Well, I'll just make I suppose, a somewhat political statement and say that Washington State has a very regressive tax system. And so to fund, whether it's education or basic services, we have to do kind of upside down, backward flips to do so. And that is especially the case with funding our approaches to homelessness. And we all know, whether we walk or drive the streets of Skagit County or go down to King County, wherever, that homelessness is growing exponentially. The way that the state legislature has been able to fund some of the basic tools that we have in our community to address homelessness is through what are called document recording fees. And it's a little piece of when you go in to refinance or to purchase a home. It will not, I guarantee you, because I purchased a home in Skagit County not too long ago, you won't notice so much compared to everything else that you're paying for, and yet it's there and it's real, and a certain amount of that stays in Skagit County, and a certain amount of goes to the state to fund either local homeless services or those that are funded through the state level. It's one of our only ways of that we have to fund any of the tools, whether it's rental assistance, what you referred to, Liz, as case management support, but that's that person-to-person support, and a number of other things that have to do with addressing homelessness, including building housing as well. So document recording fees. The problem is that when the housing market flatlines, which impacts homelessness, we don't have as many resources. And our friends at the county say that this year we can expect about a 59% reduction from the peak of 2021. Back then, there was about 1.7 million collected in 2021 in Skagit County, used to address homelessness. They're expecting that in 2023, I'm sure they're still counting, but this is pretty close, to go from 1.7 million down to 700,000. So that drop is a drastic drop, having to do with the stagnant housing market, while we're seeing homelessness go up. So backfilling that is going to be one of our major talking points in Olympia, though it's a shorter session, as you said, and really critical. If we're not able to backfill that, it will be pretty draconian in terms of some of the cuts you'll see, some of the lack of support services you'd see in our community.
And again, thanks, Bill. That was great. And again, we are advocating hard on this and helping people tell their stories because it impacts everyone that we serve in community action who's experiencing homelessness. But it's not just for community action. There are dozens of organizations in Skagit County serving people experiencing homelessness. And so this is a hit to that particular funding source is major for the ability of all homeless serving organizations to do our work. We're going to have to move on now, Bill. You raised one of the issues. One of our key performance indicators is housing people can afford and addressing homelessness. Another key performance indicator for community action is food and access to nutrition. So we'd like to turn it over now to Madeline McGonigal at the Skagit Food Distribution Center. And the Skagit Food Distribution Center is, well, actually, let me ask you, Madeline. If we care about access to food and nutrition in Skagit County, what role does the Skagit Food Distribution Center play in that?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So the Skagit Food Distribution Center in Skagit County we act as essentially an aggregation and distribution hub for all the food pantries in Skagit. And what that means is that we intake donations and products that we can then distribute to all the food pantries. In addition to being a warehouse that we can receive and distribute product, we also provide a lot of support with the food banks for them to access the state and federal funds that they need to operate.
Thanks, Madeline. And when we're talking about community needs, Bill mentioned increase as housing prices go up, so does homelessness. What are you seeing about the need for food in Skagit County? How has it changed versus the resources available over the last couple of years?
Yeah, a big thing that we're seeing in Skagit, well, across the state in Washington, there's been about a 33% increase in new clients visiting food pantries, and we're seeing the similar increase in Skagit. So numbers have continued to rise, and a big challenge for the food pantries is not having enough funding to support all those clients, or not having enough product to distribute. So, what we advocate for is, substantial and sufficient funds coming from the state and federal food assistance programs. But in addition, finding ways to increase our local purchasing to not only provide more product to the food pantries, but also keep dollars in the community, in the county. We're supporting a lot of new and underserved producers and food businesses. So that's another way that we can support the food pantries, and so then they can support their clients.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat this back. Tell me if I've got it right. So the Food Distribution Center ensures that all food banks, Helping Hands, Neighbors in Need, Tri-Parish, plus meal programs across the county. And I do want to acknowledge that we've got potentially, I think we have Clive Shavers from the 10th district is with us here today. And the Food Distribution Center also serves other parts of other counties.
Yeah, so we do serve the San Juan County food banks in addition to a smaller partner in the Island County, but mainly we're working in Skagit. But recently we've started working with the Friday Harbor, Orcas, and Lopez food pantries.
And importantly, with both housing that Bill touched on and food that you're talking about, importantly, when the government resources go down, that means that we depend on local resources even more. And that's donors and foundations. And so it's putting a strain across the community if all of these different food banks and food pantries are competing for local resources, when it's much more efficient to get those state and federal resources in to get to the food to the families that need them. So what are the legislative priorities this year? Tell us about the statewide coalition called Northwest Harvest, and what are their legislative priorities this session?
Yeah, so Northwest Harvest is one of our partner organizations. The Washington Food Coalition is another partner organization that focuses a lot on advocacy. So yeah, Liz has it up on the screen here. Northwest Harvest has a lot of great resources available for us and other food pantries to kind of stay updated on priorities. But yeah, as you can see, so healthy school meals for all, I think that bill passed last year, but supporting legislation to include school nutrition, providing free meals for students, summer EBT to kind of close that hunger gap in between school years. Senior nutrition is definitely in the spotlight. And supporting Washington food banks. This comes in the form of the TFAP and EFAP, which are the emergency food assistance programs. Those are the commodity food products in addition to both state and federal funds that get funneled down to the food pantries.
So again, we're advocating for all of these policies that benefit school districts, senior nutrition programs, not just community action. It benefits all of those food banks and food pantries and meal programs in the county. And as you said, one of the important things about it is that especially the funding that helps support us purchase food from local farmers, keep that money local, get good nutritious food to the people who need them. Thank you for all your work on that, Madeline. We appreciate you being our point person on that. And now we're going to shift gears and say, okay, we've been looking at our state legislature, but we still are keeping tabs on the feds. So at the federal level, one of the big issues that we're working on this year, we're going to have Misty Velasquez from our Energy and Utility Assistance Program help us out on what the heck is LIHEAP, why is it important, and what are we going to do about it? So first off, Misty, what is LIHEAP? We love acronyms, don't we?
LIHEAP is the Low Income Housing Energy Assistance Program.
And why is it important?
It is important because we help our community members heat their homes in the winter, cool their homes in the summertime. We help with all of their heating types such as wood, oil, propane, gas, electricity. We keep people who in their homes, we help them pay their bills, part of their heating costs, so that they can pay other items that they need, such as food, medical items, doctor's appointments that they may have co-pays for, children's school supplies, stuff along those lines that they just may not have money for.
And this is one of the reasons that at Community Action, energy assistance is seen as a homeless prevention program, because any of these programs from food at food banks to WIC programs, basic food, energy assistance, anything that can keep a little bit more of that household's income in the home, they can pay for those other basic needs. And tell us about who benefits from this. These are some of the lowest income folks in our community, right?
Right. Our LIHEAP program serves 150% of the federal poverty level and below. We serve all of Skagit County. Our furthest point east goes to Marble Mount. Our furthest point west goes all the way to Anacortes. We go out to each one of those locations once per season to serve our seniors in Anacortes and our most vulnerable in the most poverty-ridden part of our county in Marble Mount.
Can you just tell us a story of like a very short story of how energy assistance made an impact in one household's lives? And then I'm going to ask you for a few numbers.
Yes. So there was a senior who lives out in Anacortes, and we received a phone call from Anacortes Police Department, an outreach person with them, and they contacted us because a person was living in a home and they had no power, no water, no sewer usage at that moment, and this person was in desperate need of some assistance to keep her in her home. So we were able to, through the police department, contact this individual, and we were able to serve her with not only her heating source, but also from LIHEAP, but also her power through Puget Sound Energy, and her water and sewer bill through a program that goes through the LIHEAP program. So we were able to serve her and get her water turned back on, her sewer turned back on, her power turned back on, and her gas turned back on in her home. So she was able to stay in her home and not end up in a shelter or somewhere in Anacortes, and she was a senior. So
That's amazing. Can we get a round of applause for our awesome energy assistance team and the partnership with the Anacortes Police Department that led to that? We love to hear those success stories. And there's a lot of people who get help through the LIHEAP program in Skagit County through our energy assistance program. But there's also a lot of people who need it and the resources in threat. So can you tell us a little bit about what the need really looks like and how it's changed over the last couple of years?
So yeah, back prior to COVID, we were serving with regular numbers, which is around $400,000 to $500,000 with LIHEAP assistance, and that served roughly around 1,250 to maybe 1,500 households, somewhere in there, depending on how much money we got during the year. When COVID hit, we ended up getting a lot of extra money due to appropriation bills and COVID money that came out, and we were serving a huge amount of the population during that time because people lost their jobs and weren't working, and we were just trying to keep up with all of the demand of everybody coming through. We had plenty of funding. It was more just trying to keep up with the demand at that time. And so we served, I'm going to say, roughly around 18 to 2,000 households during that time. We could have served more, but we just didn't have the staff at the time to be able to serve more than that. In 2023, we served 1.6, almost $1.7 million to our community in their heating sources. That was between their energy benefit and arrearages. And then we also, of that amount, we gave out $510,000 worth to PSC and Cascade Natural Gas for arrearages on that. Was part of it.
So not everyone you serve is in arrears or has their power cut off. You're able to give folks essentially a grant, a credit on their accounts. So just based on their income, they don't have to be behind on their bills. So the need has gone up and the funding is coming down.
Yep.
And there's a threat in Congress right now. What's your role in little old community action of Skagit County? What is little old Skagit County CAP? What role are we playing for the state in this?
What do you mean by that? Like,
tell us about your trip to DC.
Okay.
And what you're doing.
So I have been asked because I went to DC last year, and Washington State hasn't had a huge support during the LIHEAP Advocacy Day in DC. So I have been asked to get a group of members of our LIHEAP program throughout Washington State to join together and show our support over in DC, and go over there and just let our representatives and our senators know how important it is in our communities, not just Washington State, but in our communities and other communities within Washington State, how important it is for our low income individuals to continue to receive this assistance.
Because there are LIHEAP programs in every county in the state. Some of them are run by community action agencies, not all of them, right?
Yep.
So again, this is an example of a big community need and working together through coalitions and with our partners, and community action has a role in that. So thank you for doing that advocacy on behalf of every low-income household in Washington State, Misty, and we're so excited that you can take some leadership in this.
Can I also mention one more thing? Sorry. I wanted to mention that every household who comes through and is eligible for any assistance walks out of our office with in-office and other community referrals for programs that's going to help them gain services to get them out, to help them with their goals for getting themselves out of poverty and their situation. And they also get energy conservation materials and ways that they can serve energy in their home with every visit. So
I think that's an important note, Misty. One of the reasons that energy assistance is at Community Action is because it's the front door to our resource centers. So you don't have to walk in an actual resource center in Concrete, Mount Vernon, or Anacortes to get those wraparound services. Any program touch is going to be an opportunity to see how that information and referral can help those families. Well, thank you so much. And we do want to leave a couple of minutes for questions, but Isabella Ordonez, our community engagement coordinator, what would you like folks to know about how they can get involved if they want to learn more about public policy advocacy or how to get involved?
Oh, thanks for showing the page. Yeah, so this is our advocacy page that we have set up. And we just wanted to point out that on the far right corner is myself and Misty and Misty's daughter from, I want to say, like our second trip all the way down to Olympia. So we were just joking that
she's
Misty's
like 20.
daughters, yeah, she's like engaged as of this weekend. So we were like, wow, that's crazy. So some ways that you can get involved is to sign up for our action alerts. So Community Action has a newsletter that we do, and we only really email folks during the legislative session when we have like an ask, or if we want people to sign on to things, or if you're interested in doing some sort of testimony. So we collect information there. Another thing you can do is, like Liz said, oh yeah, we'll go here, to find out who your legislators are. So it's super easy. You just type in your home address, and then you click the Find My District, and it will show, you know, like who your senator is, who your representatives are, and all their contact information. So you can email them, you can call them, and if you're down in Olympia, you can even go stop in their office to see them. Yeah, so Liz is doing an example. So we should be in what, the 40th?
In my office, I'm in the 40th.
And yeah, so you can also sign up for your individual representatives' email updates, and they send them out, I want to say some send them out every week, others send them out monthly. Sometimes they sent a joint newsletter together saying that they're going to be in Skagit County and they're here to listen to constituents. Another thing that you can do to get involved is, so Liz will be doing a deeper dive into public policy advocacy. We'll be sending out more information about that in a little bit. And then we also, Community Action does, is we set up meetings with all of our Skagit legislators. So we set up 9 meetings. They usually want people who live in their districts to come and attend and share their stories. And it's just like a really wonderful way to meet your legislators, to build a relationship with them. Like, we have been meeting with some of them for well over 10 years, and it's kind of cool to see the relationships that form. Like, one of the legislative aides actually emailed me the other day saying, hey, I have a constituent that lives in your district and they need energy assistance. Like, is there anything you can do to help? And so we connected with Misty.
Well, thank you for that, Isabella, and thanks to everyone at this meeting today who has partnered with us on public policy advocacy, who has come here to learn. And we do have a few minutes left. If anyone has questions about what public policy advocacy is, why we do it because of our mission at Community Action, or ways you can get involved, or if you've got any specific questions for Madeline or Misty. And if there's not time for a deep dive, we can always connect you afterwards. Does anyone have any questions for us today?
I have a quick question. In the
Yeah.
office next to you.
He's right there on the other side of the wall.
Which would you say is the highest impact thing for individuals to do? Is it to advocate at the local, state, or federal level? Is there a priority on that? Like, should we go to the county commissioners first, or do we go to the state first? How does that work?
Well, that's a conversation that I have with folks in my office every week, is when someone cares about something, finding the right place and the right way to advocate, because really every time our priority is leading with the relationship. And so on housing issues, for example, we work with our state legislature and our elected officials throughout the year, but the high impact time where we're putting our energy is the first couple of months of the year to have that impact. We're building the relationship all throughout the year. But I don't know if you were here for or if you remember the intro. The first step in public policy advocacy, the easiest step, is community education. And again, whether it's community education or lobbying with a state or federal official, or talking with a city council member, maybe over coffee after a church service or my community of faiths gathering, it all starts with, hello, my name is, I care about this issue because. And we don't have to worry about what level we're doing it at. That is advocacy, educating our community about what we care about. So learning about the issues. If we've got data, great. But the best data is lived experience. So especially for folks who have lived experience in these areas, to be sharing their stories, why they care about housing that everyone in Skagit County can afford, enough food and nutrition for every household, and access to resiliency and basic needs. So hello, my name is, I care about because. And if we do that at any level, we're making an impact. And so I would say, wherever we have the opportunity, we're going to give folks an opportunity to engage in some state advocacy. But if they have an opportunity locally to share their story, go for it. Thanks for the question, Philip. I feel like I set you up for that one, but I actually didn't. Any other questions or comments before we break today? Well,
Hey, Liz,
Bella, oh, go ahead, Misty.
sorry. There is, if anyone on here feels compelled, there is a letter from NUAC that we are asking people to sign. I think I sent you that link.
Yeah,
Liz?
we'll include that link in the follow-up notes, Misty.
Okay.
And we did include a link to the talking points in the chat.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, happy 2024 to everyone. And thanks for any way that you can share your stories about what you care about in Skagit County. Have a good day.